Drat, missed.
All right, old boy, all right. I'll get one soon.
Got it. Over there, you idiot. What's the matter, boy? This is devilish. Keep away, Lockett.
It's time for you to take your place on the jury as Bristol Myers, makers of new Ban Roll-On and new Ban Aerosol Spray Deodorant, Clairol Hair Care Products, and Ipana Toothpaste, invite you to... consider your verdict.
My lord, gentlemen of the jury, I have appeared for the Crown in many murder trials, but never in all my experience at the bar have I laid evidence for the prosecution in a case of murder so fiendish in its planning and so horrifying in its execution. What are the facts? Mary Devenish, a kindly, harmless old lady with one eccentricity, if an extreme compassion for dumb animals can be regarded as such. It was indeed a very sad day for this lady when she first encountered the man you see before you in the dock, Frederick Smith. You will hear how Smith obtained employment at the home of Mrs. Devenish, how he was to win the lady's confidence to such a degree that their relationship became that of mother to her son, rather than employer to an employee. Smith had comfortable quarters, good food, and a reasonable wage. In fact, that does not tell the full story. For this 70-year-old spinster bestowed on Smith all the affection of which this generous lady had so much to offer. And yet, she was found trapped by the teeth of one of the most horrible anti-poaching devices ever manufactured. She was found dead with one of her feet almost amputated. It is our charge and our conviction that Frederick Smith was responsible for this poor woman's terrifying end. On that note, I call my first witness, Mr. Harold Gormley. Gormley, you were employed by Mrs. Agnes Devenish at a house known as Animals Retreat, Downs Road, Horsham?
Yes, I was, for over 17 years.
For most of this time, except for yourself and your wife, who acted general cook, Mrs. Devenish lived alone.
Yes, sir.
Until Mr. Smith arrived.
That is so, sir.
Are you able to tell the court when Mr. Smith first met Mrs. Devenish?
I could. I was there when it happened.
Will you please describe to the court what happened when the late Mrs. Devenish first set eyes on Smith? Can you remember it that well?
I certainly can, sir. I remember everything about it.
Before you start, what day was it?
Oh, it was nearly 2 years ago, sir. On August the 24th, 1964.
Thank you. Now, describe the meeting, please.
Well, we were clearing away the dishes when we heard someone at the door. I believe there's somebody at the door, ma'am.
Oh, I didn't hear anything. Oh, so there is. Answer it, will you?
Right, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Is the lady at the house, madame?
Who wants her?
Well, I was wondering if there's any odd jobs that might require doing, see?
What is it, Harold?
It's all right, ma'am. It's just be one of these...
Yes, young man.
Good afternoon. Sorry to disturb you, lady. I wonder if there's any sort of odd jobs that might want doing.
Oh, Queenie. Queenie! Here. You're not...
Oh, that's a lovely looking animal. Hey, come here, Queenie. Come on, girl. Down, girl. Oh, that's a good dog. I hope you don't mind now.
Mind? Of course I don't mind. I can see you're fond of animals. Queenie's taken to you. Down, Rover, down. Oh, I'm sorry. They're quite playful, really.
Right. Hello, Rover. How are you, Rover, then?
I see you've been brought up with animals.
Glad you guessed that.
Well, they can always tell a person who's going to be sympathetic and understanding. Oh, dear, there we go, chattering away. Come in, young man, come in.
Well, I don't want to be a nuisance, right, but...
Nonsense. You look as though you need a good meal, young man.
Well, it's very kind of you.
Now, you go through there, and Mary will get you something. Can't you get a job?
Well, you see, I've just come out of the army. I thought I'd best go home.
Home? Here in Horsham?
I used to live in Church Lane when my parents was alive.
Oh, an orphan, too. How wretched for you. Harold, ask Mary to see what we've got in the kitchen.
I see, Mr. Gormley. Then what happened?
Mrs. Devenish didn't just give him an odd job to do. She gave him a full-time job.
I see. Did Smith live at the house?
No, sir. There weren't enough room. He lodged with Mrs. Ponting down the road.
Tell me, what were Smith's duties?
Well, looking after the animals mostly.
What animals?
Well, sir, there were never less than 20 cats and a dozen dogs, most of them strays.
Oh, I see.
She couldn't bear to see a lost or strayed animal. Dear lady, she used to bring them home, feed them up, and try and find a home for them.
I would like now to refer to October the 16th of last year. You and your wife were away for the weekend, were you not?
Yes, sir. My wife's mother was taken poorly the week before, and Mrs. Devenish told us we could have a few days off.
I'm sorry to hear she's so ill. Why don't you two catch the 3 o'clock to London? Stay with her for a few days.
Well, that'd be very good of you, Mrs. Devenish. But who will take care of you while we're away?
Fred will take care of me, won't you?
Yeah, I suppose so.
There's no point in sulking. You have behaved disgracefully, and I've still not made up my mind what I'm going to do about you. Now, you run along and attend to Boxer while I discuss this with Mr. Gormley.
We called at 3 o'clock and never saw the poor lady again.
Thank you. That is all.
Now, Mr. Gormley, apart from Mrs. Devenish's activities on behalf of stray cats and dogs, she was well known as head of the Horsham branch of the Anti-Snare League, was she not?
Yes, she was.
Mrs. Devenish frequently inspected Horsham woods to remove any snares that might be lying there, or release any trapped animals.
That's right, sir.
And Frederick Smith used to accompany her on these errands of mercy.
Yes, he did.
Tell me, do you dislike my client?
I don't dislike him. I don't like him either.
Your evidence paints him in a rather bad light. For instance, the way in which you testified as to the circumstance of his employment. Did Smith ask to be employed?
No, sir. Mrs. Devenish suggested it.
Thank you. During the whole of their relationship, did you ever hear my client express a dislike for his employer or threaten her in any way?
No, sir.
Now, you say that Mrs. Devenish said, "You have behaved disgracefully." Can you tell the court what was the reference? How had he behaved disgracefully?
There was some money missing.
How much money?
Mrs. Devenish said about £48.
What money was this?
Well, whenever the tradesmen used to be paid, she used to put the change into a jar. It was for her anti-snare league fund.
I see. And this money was missing?
Yes, sir.
Did Mrs. Devenish accuse my client of taking this money?
Yes. She got us all together and...
I've sent for the 3 of you because I've gone to the jar in my sewing room and the money has been taken. Now, it must be one of you 3. Did you take it, Harold?
I swear, Mrs. Devenish, I didn't take it.
What about you, Fred?
Oh, why pick on me? I didn't take the money.
I think you did, Fred. All right, you two, you go. No, stay here, Fred.
Was there any concrete proof that my client took this money? Do you know?
No, sir, I don't.
So it could have been...
I didn't take it, nor did my missus, I can tell you that.
I'm not saying you did. But as far as you know, my client could have been as innocent of the misdemeanor as he could have been guilty. And that applies to you, too.
I suppose so.
That is all.
I now call Mr. Robert Anderson. Mr. Anderson, it was you who reported the finding of the dead body of Mrs. Mary Agnes Devenish?
Yes, it was awful.
Will you describe what you saw? I understand that you were out rabbit shooting.
Yes, I'd taken my dog into Horsham Woods. Larkin began to bark furiously. I went up to investigate, and there she was. I'll never forget the scene as long as I live. It was horrible.
I'd be grateful if you described the scene as you saw it then. How was Mrs. Devenish lying? She was lying on her side, I understand.
Yes, one foot was nearly severed from the leg. It had been caught in a Roxley trap.
Will you please tell the court what a Roxley trap is?
Well, it's a man trap. My parents and their parents before them used to use these traps to catch poachers.
Would you look at Exhibit C on this table? Is that the man trap in question?
It certainly looks like it.
What a fierce-looking implement. It looks like some medieval means of torture.
It almost is, my lord. I am advised that these traps were hidden in grass and covered by leaves, and left about on a dark winter's night, so that if a poacher was intent on stalking for his prey, his foot would get caught in this trap, a spring would be released, and these iron teeth would hold it in a fierce grip.
Are such methods still employed?
No, my lord. They have been declared illegal.
May I make a statement, my lord?
Please do.
I have admitted to the ownership of this trap. As you can see, it's old and encrusted. There have been such traps lying around my property for more years than I care to remember. But they were closed and constituted no threat to anyone. That I swear.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Counsel, proceed, please.
What did you do when you found the body?
I rushed to the house and telephoned the police.
That is all.
Mr. Anderson, although these traps are no longer in use, is it not a fact that poachers are still setting traps for game?
Yes, it is.
And because of this, Mrs. Devenish frequently visited the woods to look for snares set by poachers?
Yes.
You say that to your certain knowledge, this particular trap was closed?
Yes, I do.
May I suggest you think about your answer again, Mr. Anderson? How can you be sure? Many people visit the woods during the course of the year, do they not?
Yes, they do.
Can you be sure that it was not someone who came across this trap, opened it out of curiosity, and left it open?
It would be a very difficult thing to open.
But it was open, was it not?
Yes, I suppose so.
And that is all.
My lord, before I call my next witness, may I plead for an adjournment?
And so the court adjourns in the trial of the Crown versus Frederick Smith. This dramatic presentation is brought to you by Bristol Myers. Out on a date, dancing till late, relax.
Mum takes no worry out of being close.
Mum deodorants are the proven way to stay cool, calm, and dry night and day. Mum aerosol, Mum roulette, Mum cream. Mixing a lot, feeling hot.
Mum takes no worry out of being close. Join the anti-cavity campaign. Join the IPOD brigade.
New anti-cavity IPANA toothpaste has a secret weapon against decay. Its unique tooth defenders set up a germ-proof defense around each tooth. IPANA's germ barrier stays put for hours, won't rinse or wash away.
We're against tooth decay. That's why we're for anti-cavity IPANA.
Join the IPOD brigade.
And now back to the courtroom. Another witness for the prosecution has been called. He is Dr. Walter Graham, Senior Police Surgeon for the county. Dr. Graham takes the stand and is asked...
Dr. Graham, on the afternoon of the 27th of July, you were called to examine the body you were able to identify as Mrs. Devenish.
Yes. Even I, trained to be inured, found it difficult to conduct a calm examination. She must have suffered considerable agony. Her left foot was practically severed, just above the ankle. She'd been dead about 2 days. I signed a certificate to say that, in my opinion, she died on the 24th of July, 1966.
Thank you. That is all.
No questions, love.
May we now have Detective Sergeant Mark Bailey. Sergeant Bailey, you were in charge of investigations?
Yes, I was.
Now, when did you begin to suspect that death was not accidental?
Almost immediately, sir. You see, it didn't need much examination to show us that the spring mechanism of the trap had been recently oiled. In fact, sir, we have a sworn deposition by the manufacturers that it would have been impossible to open the trap without a good deal of sandpapering and oil.
Carry on, please, Sergeant.
Well, sir, we knew that Mrs. Devenish was in the habit of going to the woods every day.
As it was common knowledge, we concluded that someone had used that knowledge to plan this terrible crime. We looked for a motive and found one.
Oh?
Yes, sir. On the 21st of July, I was sent for by the manager of the Horsham branch of the County and Provincial Bank.
Look at these checks, Sergeant.
Mrs. Devenish, eh? £10, 2 lots of 20. Forgery?
That's it.
Who cashed them?
Young fellow that works for her, you know, Fred Smith.
Do you mind if I take them? I'll give you a receipt.
By all means, but just sign this form.
Yeah.
I thought you'd want.
There was no question but that the signatures were clumsy forgeries.
Were you going to institute criminal proceedings?
No, sir.
And why not?
I couldn't do it without Mrs. Devenish's cooperation.
Did she refuse?
She wouldn't make up her mind, one way or the other.
Oh, Sergeant, this is terrible. Who else knows about this?
The people at the bank and myself, that's all. But if you accept this as your signature, there's nothing I can do.
Oh.
But we all know they're forgeries, and you can't allow this young man to get away with it.
Oh, dear. You don't know what a bitter blow this is. I find it difficult sometimes to retain my belief in people.
You've been very kind to that boy.
Perhaps I have, but you don't know what a difficult background the lad has had.
Oh, I know all about his background, Mrs. Devenish.
Well, if it's very bad, please don't tell me. I've had enough disappointments already.
The amounts of this case are very small. I doubt if he'll get more than 6 or 9 months. But if you let him get away with this, he'll be encouraged to go in after bigger money. Don't you see? You're aiding and abetting if you don't let us prosecute.
Oh, perhaps you're right. I'll give you my decision after I've talked to the boy.
But she never did. Poor woman, she didn't live long enough to make up her mind.
And so you then questioned Frederick Smith?
Yes, I did. When were you in Horsham Woods last?
About 5 days ago. We're looking for snares for Mrs. Devenish.
Where is Mrs. Devenish?
I don't know. She went away about 3 days ago.
Where did she go?
I don't know. I don't care.
Is that the way to talk about your employer?
What am I supposed to do? Shout 3 cheers because she's going to get me pinched for forgery? All over a few quid?
Do you mean to say that a dear old lady of 70 walks out of the house and doesn't return and you don't worry about it?
Well, why should I? Hey, there's nothing wrong, is there? She's all right, isn't she?
Do you mind if I take a look around?
Oh, what for?
Never mind what for. Since you want to know my reasons, I might as well tell you I've got a search warrant.
Search warrant? What is it?
Exactly what it says. So, if you'll excuse me. I then proceeded to search the place and found what I was looking for.
And what was that, Sergeant?
Any kind of machine oil.
Was there any?
There was a tin of a fluid known as lube oil. It's used for sewing machines and bicycles and that sort of thing.
And did Smith admit to the ownership of this?
He said he used it for his bicycle.
I see. Then what happened?
I told him that I would want him for questioning again. After consultations with my superiors, a warrant for his arrest was issued, and he was formally charged.
That is all. Sergeant, is it your contention that a possible prosecution for forgery was the motive for taking Mrs. Devenish's life?
Yes, it is.
Is it not true that with the death of Mrs. Devenish, it's possible for you to prosecute my client for forgery? As consent for such a charge can be given by the executors, who are in fact the bank themselves.
Yes, that is so.
So, if Frederick Smith leaves this court cleared of the charge of murder, he still has to face the charge of forgery.
Yes.
Well, where then is the motive for killing this woman who had so befriended him?
I doubt very much if the accused is aware of the legal position.
I doubt very much, but you don't know.
No.
Would you describe my client as a shrewd and intelligent man?
He's shrewd, all right.
He's shrewd, all right. Thank you. Have you tried to ascertain the movements of my client on the day this poor lady died, and on subsequent days?
Yes.
Have you been able to find anyone who can swear to seeing Frederick Smith anywhere in the vicinity of Horsham Woods?
No.
Would it not be fair to assume that someone, some stranger or a Horsham resident, or anyone at all, would have seen him?
Not at all. There are not many people around that part of the way. He could have gone there at night.
Gone where? To have laid this terrible trap, as you say he did, he would have to go to Horsham Woods while Mrs. Devenish was there, still alive. What guarantee would my client have that his employer would put her foot on that particular spot where the trap was?
We don't think he did it that way. We believe that he crawled up behind her and started suffocating the old lady.
And when she fainted, he put that terrible trap on her leg to make it look like an accident.
Sergeant, I submit that your flights of imagination are beyond the realms of credulity. I submit that there was absolutely no reason not to expect someone to walk into the woods either then or a few hours later. Remember, Sergeant, she died as a result of heart failure.
We think our case against the accused is beyond all shadow of doubt.
We shall see, Sergeant, we shall see.
The Crown's next witness is Mr. James Adamson. Mr. Adamson, you are managing director of the Adamson Engineering Works Limited?
I am.
You take a look on that table, that rather fierce-looking object. That is the trap which caused the death of Mrs. Devenish.
I know, but I would like to say that...
Just a moment. You have already examined this exhibit, have you not?
Aye.
You recognize it as being manufactured by your company?
I do. But it was manufactured long before I was born. The year is still visible. 73 years ago, in the year 1893.
Mr. Adamson, you were not asked to examine it to establish source of manufacture, so much as to give an expert's opinion on its condition.
I see. Well, as I told the police, there were no signs of new rust.
Thank you, that is all. That closes the case for the prosecution.
Does the defense wish to call any witnesses?
Yes, my lord. Despite the hazards and because of my belief in his innocence, I call to the witness stand the prisoner at the bar, Frederick Smith. Smith, did you at any time seek the death of Mrs. Devenish?
No, of course not.
But you did steal that money out of the jar?
Yes, I did.
Why?
Oh, she was very kind. Mrs. Devenish paid my board and lodging direct to my landlady. Gave me £2 a week spending money and put the rest in the post office. Said she was forcing me to save, you see. £2 a week. Didn't keep me in cigarettes or beer.
And is that why you forged the checks?
Yeah. Well, I didn't try to cash them in some sort of out-of-the-way place. I knew that would come back to me. I took it to the bank myself.
Well, then if you knew, why did you do it? Did you not know that you would be punished?
No, I didn't. I knew that when Mrs. Devenish found out, she'd give me a telling off, but that's all.
Yeah. Why did you not report Mrs. Devenish's disappearance?
Well, how did I know she disappeared? She's a very strange old lady. Everybody knows that. As she walked out the house, she said, I wonder how the Fletchers are getting on. When she didn't return that night, I thought she'd got in a train and gone to London. I wouldn't have put it past her, see? I mean, she was unpredictable.
But the following day, when she didn't return?
Well, she told me about the talk she had with the police. I thought she didn't want to face me until she'd made up her mind, see? I feel terrible now. I don't want to face her either, because if she decided to prosecute, I'd be for it, see?
And you were never near Horsham Woods on the 24th of July?
No, I swear it.
Did you know that if Mrs. Devenish died, you would have been prosecuted for forgery?
Of course I did. It'd be obvious. What with the police knowing about it and everything?
So you had no reason to kill her?
Reason to kill her? She's the only person I had in the world. Like a mother to me. I didn't kill her. I swear I didn't kill her.
Didn't you? Then who did?
Well, how do I know?
How much of that oil did you use, Smith?
Well, that was my bicycle oil. I never used it for anything else, I swear.
I submit that everything that you've told this court has been a lie.
Well, it's true, I tell you, it's true.
I suggest to you that you killed an unfortunate woman who befriended you.
I didn't, I tell you, I didn't do it.
You killed her to avoid retribution for your fraudulent act.
I'm innocent, I tell you, I'm innocent.
Are you, Frederick Smith? Are you?
Yes, I am. I've done some things in my life that I'm ashamed of. But I'm no murderer. Not Mrs. Devenish. I wouldn't harm a hair of her head.
When Smith declares that he would not harm a hair of Mrs. Devenish's head, this is no play acting by a man trying to hide his guilt. This is a genuine plea to be believed, that although he was brought up in circumstances where degrees of right and wrong were sometimes distorted to suit the individual, Smith's outlook on life became markedly changed as a result of the generosity and affection bestowed upon him by Mrs. Devenish. Can you not see, gentlemen of the jury, that when Smith cashed those fraudulent checks, he genuinely believed that he was taking monies to which he was entitled? He also knew that Mrs. Devenish's affection for him was such that he would be forgiven when his forgery was discovered. I ask you not to make Smith pay the penalty for a crime he did not commit. I ask you not to seek a solution to this woman's death by naming an innocent man as murderer.
Do not be deceived by the oratory of my learned friend, or the expression of wide-eyed innocence of the prisoner. He killed Mrs. Devenish all right. Killed her because he feared the consequences of his forgery. He believed that with the woman's death, there could be no one to prefer any charges against him, and so he killed. Killed this sweet, defenseless old lady who had been so kind to him. Do not let him get away with his crime, gentlemen of the jury. See that this horrible, fiendish, brutal death that he had devised will not go unpunished.
Well, you have heard all the relevant facts in the case. Would you say that Frederick Smith was guilty or not guilty of the murder of Mrs. Mary Agnes Devenish? In just a moment, you will hear the verdict recorded in the actual trial upon which this dramatic presentation is based. In the actual trial on which this dramatic presentation is based, the prisoner at the bar was found not guilty of murder.
Bristol Myers, makers of new Ban Roll-On and new Ban Aerosol Spray Deodorant, Ipana Toothpaste, and Clairol Hair Care Products, hope you enjoyed tonight's presentation of Consider Your Verdict, produced by Michael Silver. On Friday evening at 8:30, you're invited to listen to Medical File, another great dramatic series also brought to you by Bristol Myers. So, goodbye until next Tuesday, when it will be time once again to take your place on the jury of Consider Your Verdict.